Hi, this is Dustin from Dustin's Dollars, and today I am talking about Knightscope and their federal government progress, what sales they have made to date, and what they've stated about their intentions in terms of serving the federal government in the future. Before I begin in earnest, let me remind you that I am not a financial advisor or a financial professional of any sort. All opinions that I express in this video are mine and do not represent those of any company or any other individual. I currently have a long position in Knightscope. So basically this video should be for your entertainment purposes only because I could be wrong about everything that I say in the video. You need to do your own research before making any investment decisions. So that being said, I'm going to go through what the company has disclosed to date in terms of serving the federal government. And this is all sort of spurred by the announcement today of the person that they hired who does have some ties to, prior engagements with the federal government. So they first started talking about this or first had a real announcement in terms of serving the federal government that I saw in May of 2019. And this is something they said they had been working on, and then they got this to where they are listed, they're available on the GSA schedule. That's their terminology. And as they describe it here, this is effectively a place where federal government agencies go to purchase things, and this is sort of some program that where they are vetted and now they are listed there as an approved vendor. I guess I'm sure there's some more specific wording in here, but that's the gist of it. And say who's eligible to purchase from a GSA contract, federal and executive agencies, government contractors authorized to buy on behalf of federal and executive agencies, the government of DC and some state and local entities. So there you go. That was sort of the first thing that they announced, and you can actually see this. They are listed right there. You can go to gsaadvantage.gov and do a search here, and you can see Knightscope's products listed here. And you can see exactly how much the federal government, if they order one right now, would pay, or at least I assume this is how much it is, would pay for a K5, and that is $6,400. I assume that's for 1 year. I don't actually know. It doesn't specify very much, but you can even click on this and go in and take a look. It's got the product details there, all their fun features, people detections, license plate recognition, yada, yada, yada. I've talked through this before. I'm sure if you're interested in the company, you probably have at least some pretty good idea of what the robots do. But this is available to, as I said, federal government agencies and whoever else orders things and services through this GSA Advantage. So it's listed there. And at least, again, I have no firsthand knowledge of this, but I believe that they had to go through some sort of a vetting process to get listed here. So I think that was a good vote of confidence, back in 2019. So moving on, what progress have they actually made towards sales? They did receive an actual purchase order from the federal government. This was their announcement, and I noted down the date of when this was, when I had the email about this in the newsletter. This was sent out on June 23rd of 2020. And, they said that they got their first federal purchase order. It was awarded through that GSA contract. So, there you go. That was good. And they say they were going to deploy at an undisclosed location in Texas. And I think it's pretty clear from what they released weeks later in July of 2020 that this was at the VA hospital in Texas, right? They say right here, this is that Veterans Hospital in San Antonio, Texas. And they made a blog post about this on their website. And then they put out a tweet when they actually deployed, which was a couple months later in November 4th, 2020. And there you go. You can see the actual K5 patrolling outside, at least ostensibly outside of the VA hospital there. I don't know the building from anything else, but that's what it apparently is. I wonder if I can see on that. Oh yeah, thanks for telling me to join Twitter. No thanks. All right, so moving along, what else have they done with the federal government? There is this, this was an announcement from July of 2020. This was sent out on July 4th of 2020. says Knightscope secures a memorandum of agreement from the U.S. military. An unnamed branch of the U.S. Armed Forces has issued a memorandum of agreement to Knightscope for a contract totaling up to $1.5 million. So I thought that was interesting. There's no details in this, and I don't think that I follow the company fairly closely, and I've never seen anything else about this particular agreement. So I don't know if that means that this one has fallen through. My speculation is that this is held up because of their FedRAMP approval or FedRAMP certification, whatever you want to call it. And I know that they've stated in the past that they have a contract that they can't actually operate on because of lacking that FedRAMP certification right now. And I speculate that this is the contract that they actually got this to go through, but that due to not having that FedRAMP certification, they are not actually able to do it per the policy of the federal government, right? And they've called that out the cloud first policy, I think it is. I've got it up right here. This is from the 10Q. It was just filed, and it's been in their previous filings as well, where they say that they are trying to achieve, quote unquote, authority to operate from the FedRAMP, and this will enable federal agencies to do business with Knightscope, which I thought was interesting that they actually did deploy at the VA hospital. But in their filings, they effectively, and in other conversations, I've heard them say that FedRAMP compliance, exactly what they list here, FedRAMP compliance will enable federal agencies to do business with Knightscope. And so it made me wonder if perhaps something moved forward when it shouldn't with that VA contract and that VA deployment, and maybe that was put on pause the same way that this potential contract from the U.S. military could also be on pause, and could be on pause until they achieve this FedRAMP certification. So I don't know. It'd be interesting for the company to clarify that, but when I read some of this in some of the conversations that they've said, when they were raising funds and such, and they had some of those meetings, they made it sound like the federal government would not do any business with them until they had achieved the FedRAMP certification. So we'll see what happens there. I'm sure there will be some nice announcements after they actually achieve the FedRAMP certification, if they achieve it, and in terms of what customers they have at that point, or how large some of the sales are. So that is an interesting thing that they actually have a contract from the U.S. military that was separate from the VA contract. Or sorry, they didn't actually get a contract. They have a memorandum of agreement. And clearly we don't know all the details there, but it is at least another vote of confidence, I think, for the company. And again, points towards Knightscope working with the federal government. As they've sort of stated multiple times, and I don't have any quotes brought up for today's stream, but I know that they have mentioned that they want to serve the Department of Homeland Security, not necessarily the military. That I don't think they've stated in the past they're not really trying to make military robots, for a variety of reasons, but they are looking to serve the Department of Homeland Security and do what they do, which is security robots. So the one thing that, I already covered this yesterday in terms of they're trying to get FedRAMP, they're targeting end of 2022. And that was actually reiterated in today's agreement, today's announcement, that, they hired a robotics engineer, a director of robotics engineering. And I thought it was interesting here that both they reiterated this, that Knightscope is approximately halfway through a nearly 2-year cybersecurity review process, working towards an authority to operate, right? And that's talking about the FedRAMP certification. The other interesting thing here is that this guy that they hired has had prior engagements with the U.S. Department of Defense. And that again points towards they're really targeting the federal government. And another piece here, that they I don't know if they called it out here, but that they have this Robot Roadshow, and I mentioned that in the past. It's a marketing thing for them, where they actually physically bring the robots to a particular location so that people can go take a look at it. They book appointments. with prospects there, and they were in Washington D.C. for a couple of days, and I think they may have even been there for like up to a week. And last December, don't quote me on that, but I know that that was definitely a stop, and they were there for multiple days, and it was pretty pretty clear that they were courting some federal government customers at that point. And I think Bill made a couple comments on some of the investor presentations around that time that that they were talking to those folks. Again, nothing concrete there, so it's very speculative at this point. But another very interesting thing that they called out here, where is it? In anticipation of significant future long-term business with the federal government, we are actively working on planning our footprint in Washington, D.C. for the 2023 plus timeframe. So I thought that was particularly interesting and telling that if they really think they're going to have that much business with the federal government, that they think it's going to be worth having an office open in Washington, D.C., that gives some insight into the direction that the company is trying to go in terms of which, where they're going to be spending their time, trying to build relationships, make sales, et cetera, et cetera. And, it's a mixed bag working with the federal government, but, I think it's a good, I don't want to say marriage. It's a good relationship because, the federal government does have this need, and they have the money, of course, to be able to pay for their robots and be able to do to front it. And it's a great customer to have when you do have sort of the stable revenue coming in from the government. So I think this is a good thing for the company. I'm still waiting, very, very anxiously to see what happens when they do achieve that FedRAMP certification, and if they can actually achieve that on their planned timeline by the end of 2022. So let's see, is any comments in the chat? Nope. All right. That is all that I wanted to talk about today. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.